Hello everyone, a very good evening to all of you. Welcome to the very special video on finance current affairs. Okay, so I hope I am audible, I hope I am visible to all of you. Good evening everyone, good evening Mukund, Chetan. How are you all guys? Can anyone just quickly confirm if I'm audible, if I'm visible? All set to start the session? Hello Srishti. So very good evening everyone. Okay, perfect. Thanks for confirming. Let's quickly start the session. We have to discuss a lot of news today. So if you guys are preparing for RBI Grade B examination, you can check out our course and start your journey with us. You can download our Oliveboard application. वहाँ पे आपको सारे PDF available हो जाएंगे. You can also start practicing previous year questions. Plus on every Friday 8 PM, I'm bringing previous year questions completely solved, including MCQs. Right? On every Wednesday 8 PM. So the first session is already out. Yesterday itself we have completed the 2024 wala session, PYQ wala, and the rest we will be covering in the coming sessions, right? So the first news for today, RBI proposes relaxation of investment norms for regulated entities in alternative investment funds. Now this particular news can be a bit complex for those who are not having the adequate background related to the finance, right? So I'll take it from the very scratch. Okay, RBI proposes relaxation for investment norms for regulated entity. What do you guys mean by regulated entities? It can be banks, it can be financial institutions like NBFCs or any other financial institution, right? That's what regulated entity is all about, which is regulated by the RBI. So RBI proposes a relaxation of investment norms for regulated entities in alternate investment funds. So what regulated entity used to do is they invest in alternative investment funds, right? They invest in alternative investment fund. For those who don't know what alternative investment funds are, they are private investment funds that pool money from investors. Let's suppose you all are my investors, right? You all are my investors. You gave me the money. I created a AIF, alternate investment fund. Now I will be investing in the non-traditional assets. What do you mean by non-traditional asset? It can be unlisted startups, it can be real estate, highly risky projects, even the distressed assets like NPA as well, right? So AIF is for HNIs, I can say, right? Not for retailers, because the basic ticket size, if you want to get into AIF, is 1 crore rupee. एक खोखा चाहिए होगा, right? आपको अगर AIF के अंदर एंट्री लेनी है तो, right? सर बातें तो सारी समझ में आ रही है, but we are not able to understand the news. Like RBI proposes relaxation. Why there is a need for relaxation? And that's what brings me to the background of this news. Let's first understand the background. Okay, let's suppose HDFC Bank has given a loan to, let's suppose, XYZ Limited company. So it's a company to which HDFC Bank has given a loan, right? The loan is worth, say for example, 10 crore, right? At the same time, HDFC Bank has invested in a AIF, alternate investment fund. Now this AIF can invest in any company, in any real estate project or anything that the fund manager likes, right? Surprisingly, this AIF has also invested in XYZ Limited. So can I say that you have indirectly again invested in XYZ Limited? First you have given a loan of 10 crore and then that is a direct lending. What if the AIF has again given a loan to XYZ Limited? That's a indirect lending. You have given money to the AIF and AIF has again invested in XYZ Limited. Sir, what's the problem in that? Look, it increases your exposure. आपको लगा था you will be giving only 10 crore rupees maximum. However, because of this indirect lending, which you are unaware of, or maybe even you are aware of, it doesn't matter. You have again invested in XYZ Limited घूम फिर के. So that becomes a big problem, right? HDFC is nothing but regulated entity here. AIF तो AIF ही होगा, alternate investment fund, right? So the background is, in December 2023, RBI imposed restrictions preventing regulated entities such as banks and NBFCs from investing in AIF that had exposure to existing or recent borrower. So XYZ, I can say, is my existing or recent borrower. Because I have invested in an AIF and AIF has again invested in XYZ Limited, that creates a problem for me. So that's why RBI has imposed a restriction in December 2023. कब की बात कर रहे हैं? December 2023 की बात कर रहे हैं. इससे प्रॉब्लम होने लग गया था. So in order to resolve that problem, now RBI has proposed a relaxation of investment norms for regulated entities in investment in AIF. So the problem is, regulatory entities were not even able to invest the money in AIF. Now they can invest. There is a bit of relaxation which is being proposed by the RBI. So on 19th May, RBI has released a draft proposal suggesting the relaxation of these norms, right? There is a cap which RBI has suggested. देखो यार, जिस चीज को कंट्रोल नहीं कर सकते उस पे कैप लगा दो, right? So if you are individual RE, HDFC Bank can invest in a AIF maximum up to 10% of this corpus, of the AIF. Let's suppose the AIF is having 1000 crore corpus, then HDFC Bank can invest up to 100 crore solely, individually, right? Individually. So that's an individual cap. You need to remember the percentages because this is very, very important for your examination, right? That's why I'm taking this thing, the very first thing in my today's session, right? This is important. Individual cap laga. They have imposed the aggregate RE investment cap as well. The total investment by all the REs, HDFC, SBI, IDBI, ठीक है, कोई भी BI, कोई भी FC, doesn't matter. All the REs cannot invest more than 15% of the AIF's corpus, right? So aggregate limit is 15%, individual limit is 10%. Do remember, this is very, very important. Individual limit is 10%, aggregate limit is 15% of the AIF ka corpus, right? However, the RBI has given certain exemptions to AIF established for strategic purpose. So certain exemptions has been given to AIF for strategic purpose, right? Now there is a twist in the story. Unrestricted investment threshold. Let's suppose I am HDFC Bank. I can freely invest up to 5% of AIF corpus without any additional restriction. Sir, but you told that the percentage was 10, not 5. Look, 10% is with restriction. 5% is without restriction. Sir, what kind of restriction you are talking about? The moment your investment exceeded the 5% limit, you need to make 100% provision of the rest of the amount exceeding 5%. Let's suppose the 5% was 10 crore. However, I invested 15 crore. So on this additional 5 crore, I need to make 100% of the provision. I am HDFC Bank. So I need to make 100% of the provision. Why? Because this particular AIF is having an exposure in a debtor, in a borrower that has already taken funds from me, right? So the objective is to balance the need for financial discipline within the flexibility, so that people are not able to, banks are not able to again lend those XYZ limited indirectly, right? It's a loophole. So that's why somebody needs to control it, right? That's why RBI has inserted a cap on it. So here is the direction on the website. I have taken the directions as well. So it was released on 19th of May. Revised direction on investments made by the regulated entity in AIF. So all the limits you can see here. Okay, all the limits you can see here. A detailed video regarding this will also come in, most probably by tomorrow or day after tomorrow, right? So this is the circular. Okay, this is the circular. Acha, however, this complete circular or notification is applicable only on loans, not on equity shares or shares that are equivalent to equity share. If I talk about compulsory convertible preference share or compulsory convertible debentures, so these are the preference share capital and debentures that will be someday converted into equity share capital. I'm not talking about equity share capital. Okay, the idea is to stop indirect lending, right? So if investment is in equity share is there, then no worries. However, अगर यहाँ पे इन्वेस्टमेंट हुआ है आपका लोन के अंदर, then there is a worry. That's why there are caps. Okay. अच्छा, in this part, yes, masked equity, very good terminology used. Okay. अच्छा, look, let's read this first para. On the Reserve Bank of India issued a guidelines relating to investment by the regulated entity in the AIF with the objective of addressing certain concerns relating to the possible evergreening. What do you guys mean by evergreening? अच्छा देखो, मेरे को सर्कुलर भी पढ़ना पड़ता है, राइट? कभी कमेंट आ जाते हैं, सर आप तो सर्कुलर पढ़ के सुना रहे हो. अरे यार, खुद का सर्कुलर थोड़ी बना सकता हूँ, राइट? माई जॉब इज टू डू योर जॉब इजी. तो मैं सर्कुलर पढ़ के समरी बना के देता हूँ. फिर भी कभी कमेंट आ जाता है कि सर आप तो सर्कुलर पढ़ के बताते हो, वो तो पढ़ना ही पड़ेगा, राइट? तुमको ना पूरा पढ़ना पड़े, इसलिए मुझे पूरा पढ़ना पड़ेगा. So possible evergreening. What do you mean by possible evergreening? Look, what happens in the possible evergreening? When a bank gives a new loan to a borrower just to repay the old loan, let's suppose HDFC Bank has already given a loan to XYZ. Now XYZ don't have money to repay the HDFC Bank. So what they can do is they can divert additional funds via AIF. And they have used these new loan funds to repay the old loan funds. So this is becoming a circle, right? It won't let anywhere. Yeah, ये कभी कहीं नहीं जाने वाला ultimately. So these kind of practices को prevent करने के लिए this proposed regulation is there. Okay, that's evergreening loan, right? अच्छा, next is RBI bulletin May 2025. So let's discuss in a summarized manner, not directly related to your finance current affairs, but yeah, we can have a quick discussion around RBI bulletin May 2025, right? So there are 4 articles here: state of economy, economic activity and banknotes, digital footprints related to tourism, and impact of weather anomalies on vegetable prices in India. Let's discuss them quickly one by one. State of economy. Despite of the global challenges, like we have seen the issue of trade war, low consumer demand, still the Indian economy stayed strong in April, right? So that's a good news. Indian economy stayed strong despite of having trade issues with other countries, especially the US, and low consumer demand. Agriculture is also doing well due to good rabi crops. Inflation, again we all know that inflation has dropped to the lowest since 2019. And can anyone tell me in the comment section what is the current inflation rate as per the last reported data of April 2025? Can anyone tell me in the comment section quickly? फटाफट से. It's a very basic thing, right? And we have discussed in the finance current affairs series also. Inflation का data tips पे होना चाहिए ना? चलो 2 ओपिनियन आ रहे हैं, आई लीव इट टू यू गाइज, डू योर ओन रिसर्च, लेट मी नो इन द कमेंट सेक्शन टुमारो, ठीक है, लेट मी नो इन द कमेंट सेक्शन। 2 ओपिनियन तो आना ही नहीं चाहिए यहाँ पे। So Indian markets were tense in April but stabilized by late May, right? Next article was related to economic activity and banknotes, ठीक है, अगला आर्टिकल किस पे था? Economic activity and banknotes पे था। So use of cash has slowed in the recent year and that's what happens in a formal economy. In a formal economy, less cash usage is there. Why? Because businesses are formalized by getting registered, by paying taxes, and eventually they don't use much cash. Unorganized businesses use more and more cash, right? So that's what is there in the economic activity and banknotes. Next is the inbound tourism and Google search. So here is a interesting data. RBI used here Google search data to track the foreign tourists coming to India. So people from the foreign countries used to search travel to India. Now this Google data, travel to India, is matching closely with the actual tourist arrival. Let's suppose 100 people have searched the term travel to India. So almost 90 to 100 people are also visiting as tourists. So, right. So as a conclusion, these searches can predict the future tourism number, the tourist number, right? So that's again an interesting analysis that we had in this particular bulletin. Next. Okay, so I hope I'm audible now. Yes, there is some electricity issue at my end, guys. Sorry for that. Due to bad weather conditions today. I hope everything is fine from my end as of now. Okay, thanks for confirming. Just give me a second. Okay, let's start. So I was discussing about the weather impact on vegetable price. So vegetable price rise mainly due to the weather issues like unusual heat or rain. Temperature has a faster and bigger effect on the prices than the rainfall. So the suggestion was to grow temperature resistant crops. ऐसी crops grow करो जो temperature resistant है, right? So these were the basic highlights from the RBI bulletin. Okay. Next is RBI grants in principle approval to Emirates NBD Bank PJSC, a UAE bank, for setting up a wholly owned subsidiary in India. What is a wholly owned subsidiary? Let's suppose the foreign bank is in foreign country UAE, right? What they are doing is, this is the holding company, or I can say the parent group. They are opening a wholly owned subsidiary in India. So that's what this bank is doing, and RBI has granted the in principle approval for that. Okay, RBI has granted the in principle approval for that. The final approval they are yet to receive. In principle approval का मतलब क्या होता है? It is subject to conditions. If they are able to fulfill the conditions, then definitely they will be getting the final approval as well. Next is 615th meeting, 615th meeting of the Central Board of the Reserve Bank of India. So यहाँ पे मीटिंग हुई रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया की, एंड दे हैव रिव्यूड द इकोनॉमिक कैपिटल फ्रेमवर्क. व्हाट इज इकोनॉमिक कैपिटल फ्रेमवर्क? ECF. What is that? economic capital framework means it determines how much surplus or profits can RBI transfer to the government, right? RBI usually pays dividend to the government. Can you guys tell me what was the amount RBI paid as dividend last year to the government and what's the expectation this year? If you guys have read in the newspaper, just checking how many of you are frequently reading the newspapers. So basically economic capital framework means, let's suppose RBI has earned 100 rupee. Now how much profits they will transfer to the government, how much they will retain as reserves. That's what economic capital framework is all about, right? It's an important financial decision, financial management decision, right? Okay, no problem, Mukund. We will be covering that as well today. Okay, Robin. Okay, great. So that's what ECF is all about, and the discussion was revolved around the ECF framework in the 615th meeting, right? Let me just give you a quick background. It was set up by the RBI in 2019 on the recommendation of the Bimal Jalan committee. Okay, the goal was to find a balance between retaining enough capital and transferring the adequate surplus to the government. And they are using three key terminologies here: contingent risk buffer, funds that are set aside for expected economic or financial shock. Let's suppose an economic shock has taken place, unexpected. So that's why they're keeping it as a buffer. Okay, I'll make a separate video on this stuff, on the terminologies of this. Most probably the video will come tomorrow or day after tomorrow along with that. Okay. Next is Exim Bank's Government of India supported line of credit for $700 million to the government of Mongolia for financing the construction of crude oil refinery plant in Mongolia. So Exim Bank has offered line of credit supported by the government of India for $700 million. Okay, to the government of Mongolia. For what is the purpose? For construction of crude oil refinery plant in Mongolia. I think a month back, right, in April, I think in March or April, government of India, Exim Bank has supported Vietnam, if I'm not wrong, Vietnam, for building ship vessels or something like that. A circular also came for that. Okay, if you guys remember that thing as well. Okay, so this time they have supported the government of Mongolia with 700 million USD, right? The purpose is construction of crude oil refinery. Acha, what is LOC, line of credit? It's nothing but a loan arrangement here where one country is agreeing to lend certain amount of money to another country and they will be paying it in the installments, and we also will be releasing the fund on installment as and when they need. Yes, Chetan, it's a AIFI. Exim Bank is a AIFI. So there are 5 AIFI as of now in India. Okay, Exim Bank is also one of them. Next is related to SEBI circular. Okay, so this is a SEBI circular. So many a times I get a query in class like, sir, are you covering all the things related to finance? So what I cover in the finance current affairs session is Economic Times newspaper. Most of the finance related things which come in into Economic Times. I cover finance related news. I cover RBI related news. I cover SEBI related news as well as some of the important circulars. Not all the circulars, but those circulars that can be important for your examination in the RBI. Okay. And for RBI circular, we do a separate series. Okay. So from finance perspective, major, I think more than 90% things we already cover in this particular series, and we are doing MCQs as well. Okay, guys. Next is SEBI circular related to internal audit mechanism and audit committee norms for MII. MII means Market Infrastructure Institution. So in Market Infrastructure Institution, all the institutions like stock exchange, clearing corporations, depositories, which provide infrastructure. Look, the name says it all. These institutions provide infrastructure to the market. That's why they are market infrastructure institutions. Okay. Now, can you guys tell me what do you mean by internal audit? What do you guys mean by internal audit? Can anyone tell me? What is internal audit all about? It's nothing but examination of the books of accounts, right? Okay, audit by company itself. Yes, we can say that. Yes and no, both, because internal auditor sometimes can be external party as well, right? Usually you call that an external audit. However, internal auditor usually is an employee of the company only. Okay. However, we can appoint a third party as well to do the internal audit. So usually before finalizing my books of accounts, I want it that somebody independent can check my books of accounts, right? So I appoint internal auditors here. So SEBI circular says that MII are very, very important because the whole infrastructure is dependent on these institutions, stock exchanges like NSE, BSE, clearing corporations and depositories like CDSL, NSDL, right? ये गए तो पूरा market गया. So considering the importance, they have prescribed the internal audit mechanism. आपको तो internal audit करवानी ही है. You need to get your books of accounts checked by an independent person, an independent auditor here, right? So the purpose is to operate transparently and accountable manner, right? Transparency बढ़ानी है. देखो ultimately SEBI चाहता ही वही है, financial markets की transparency include better हो. अच्छा, internal audit is a third line of defense. What do you mean by third line of defense? तो देखो सबसे पहले कौन आते हैं? Operational teams आते हैं. Operational teams like sales and basically all your teams related to operations teams. They will be the first line of defense. Why? Because they need to own and manage risk in daily business operations. They will be facing the regular risk related to operations. Then comes the second line, risk management and compliance teams. Now these teams are setting rules and regulations so that they can control the risk. And the third line of defense, ये सब होने के बाद भी अगर कुछ problems prevail कर रही हैं, so that's what we are appointing, and for that's what purpose we are appointing an internal auditor, right? To do a independent review that we have implemented some controls, whether they are in place or not, or whether they are operating effectively or not. पता बड़ा control लगे हैं पर काम ही नहीं कर रहे, क्या मतलब है? मतलब controls are there but they are not operating effectively, या फिर हो सकता है control ही नहीं हो, right? So if I take an example of a bank, so the first line is branch manager. So branch manager will be checking the loan documents. In the second line, risk team will ensure that credit policies are being followed or not. And the third line, internal auditor will check that both the lines have done their work or not, right? So that's what the purpose of internal audit is all about. Scope and coverage, mandatory annual review, mandatory annual internal audit of MII function. So here SEBI has prescribed that MII, मतलब depository, clearing corporation, right? इन सबको क्या करना पड़ेगा? Stock exchanges, annual internal audit करवानी पड़ेगी इनके operations की. They need to get an internal auditor appointed, a firm of internal auditor appointed. This will be completely independent and appointment will be approved by the audit committee. So what happens is, let's suppose there is a company. They will so there will be board of directors as well. So among few board of directors, they will constitute audit committee. कुछ board of director मिलके क्या करेंगे? They will constitute audit committee, right? So they will be dealing with each and everything related to auditor. So as an auditor, if there is any concern, I won't be going to the rest of the board of directors, but I'll be going to the audit committee, right? And that's what we can see here, that the auditor is appointed by audit committee here. Auditor will report to the audit committee. And then there are a lot of things, but we will be covering only the important things that can come up in your examination, right? I would like to keep the discussion very, very crisp, to the point, exam oriented, right? No point of stretching few things to 1 hour, 2 hour. It doesn't make any sense, right? I don't want to waste your time, guys. So we need to be exam oriented here. timelines, auditor must brief the audit committee twice a year. So auditor will be briefing audit committee 2 times a year within 60 days from the end of September and March. Why September and March? So this is 1st April, this is September, after 6 months, right? This is the first time auditor will brief to the audit committee. In the second half, September to March, again in the second phase, auditor will brief to the audit committee, and that's how it will work. Okay. Composition of audit committee. So definitely no executive directors will be involved in composition of audit committee. I don't know whether you are, in case if you have studied corporate governance related to banking in your RBI syllabus, then definitely you will be understanding the terms like executive directors and non-executive directors. There are 2 types of directors. Sorry for my bad handwriting. I'll definitely practice cursive writing sometime. Okay. So there are 2 types of directors, executive and non-executive director. Okay. Executive director means those directors who are involved in day-to-day operations of the company, everyday operations of the company. However, those directors that are not at all part of day-to-day functioning, rather they are there in the company for governance purpose. Like whatever things are going on, they are going on in a correct manner or not. They are non-executive directors, right? And few of them are independent directors. So independent directors are basically non-executive directors who don't have any financial relationship with the company, right? So for those who are having a confusion कि सर डायरेक्टर के कितने पार्ट होते हैं, एग्जीक्यूटिव, नॉन एग्जीक्यूटिव. एग्जीक्यूटिव मीन्स दोज हु आर पार्टिसिपेटिंग इन डे टू डे ऑपरेशंस. नॉन एग्जीक्यूटिव, those who don't participate in the day-to-day operations. And in non-executive director, we are having another director which is called as independent director, who is completely independent, as the name says it all, right? Next, SEBI circular, reforms in the electronic book provider EBP platform. Next SEBI circular, reform in the electronic book provider platform. So there is a platform, EBP platform. So look, to enhance the efficiency, transparency and standardization of private placement of debt securities. For those who are not well aware of these terminologies, private placement. Let's suppose I want to issue debt securities. I want to issue debentures, let's suppose. Now I can do it in a IPO, initial public offer. I can do it in a further public offer. सबको ऑफर कर दिए, जिसका मूड हो आके मेरे डिवेंचर ले जाओ. This is one way. Another way is I can do a private placement. मैं कुछ लोगों के पास जाके बोलूंगा, लेट्स सपोज मैं LIC के पास गया, मैं HDFC बैंक के पास गया, मैंने कहा यार मेरे डिवेंचर ले लो, प्लीज टेक माय डिवेंचर्स. नाउ दिस इज प्राइवेट प्लेसमेंट. आई एम नॉट ऑफरिंग द डेट सिक्योरिटीज टू द जनरल पब्लिक. हाउएवर, I'm doing it as a private placement. I'm going to the organizations privately and I'm placing my debt securities, right? That's what private placement is all about. Okay. So the circular is around private placement of debt securities. Whenever I am making private placement of debt securities, it will be via EBP platform. EBP means electronic book provider. That's a compulsion. Now this platform will be mandatory if my issue size is 20 crore or more. This is important. Please do remember the limit. If my issue size, my debt security issue size in a private placement exceeds 20 crore or more, then EBP platform is important to me. I need to make that issue via EBP platform. Now what happened, I issued a shelf prospectus. What happens in shelf issue? I'll be having multiple issues in between, and all these issues in a financial year are equal to 20 crore or more. Again, I need to report it via EBP platform. Let's suppose I have made a subsequent issue No worries. In one financial year, if you are going above or equal to 20 crore, then EBP platform will be must. EBP platform will be must. Earlier, this limit used to be 50 crore. Now they have slashed it to 20 crore. Okay, please do remember this is important. And as you can see in your 2024 previous year question paper, that they have asked many things from SEBI circulars, from SEBI related finance current affairs, right? So don't restrict yourself to RBI only कि सर हम तो सिर्फ RBI पे ही पढ़ेंगे, SEBI का भी पढ़ना है. And soon I'll release a video also कि how to study things from SEBI website. Okay, SEBI website से क्या क्या पढ़ना है, RBI website का तो I've already released it. SEBI से क्या क्या पढ़ना है वो भी हमको पता होना चाहिए, राइट? वैसे तो मैं फाइनेंस करंट अफेयर्स के अंदर वो चीजें कवर कर ही रहा हूं, स्टिल आपको पता होना चाहिए, राइट? तो यही सारी लिमिट्स यहां पे भी गिवन है. दीज ऑल आर लिमिट्स व्हिच आर गिवन दैट आई हैव जस्ट डिस्कस्ड. 20 करोड़ वाली ऑप्शनल. इफ योर इशू इज लेस देन 20 करोड़, स्टिल यू कैन रिपोर्ट इट, नो वरीज. You are issuing any kind of commercial paper, certificate of deposit, then also you can definitely opt for issuing via EBP platform, or you are issuing infrastructure investment trust, real estate investment trust units privately, still you can use this platform. This is very well available to you in even in case of REITs and INVITs. Okay. Timeline for submission: submit the placement memorandum and term sheet within 2 working days. Okay, so you need to submit within 2 working days before the issue opens. So let's suppose you are having an issue on 4th, then within 2 working days before the issue opens, right? So 2 दिन पहले एटलीस्ट 2nd को आपको क्या करना पड़ेगा, यहाँ पे इशू करना पड़ेगा. However, if you are using the EBP platform for the very first time, you have never used it before, so then 3 working days prior to the issue open date. Okay, so do remember this period as well, this period, and this amount is very very important, right? Acha, as a homework, read this green shoe option, research about this green shoe option कि ये ग्रीन शू ऑप्शन क्या होता है, राइट? सो दैट्स अ होमवर्क फ्रॉम माय एंड, एंड डू लेट मी नो इन माय टुमारोज क्लास कि सर ग्रीन शू ऑप्शन ये होता है. ओके, दैट्स अ होमवर्क. इस पर रिसर्च करना कि व्हाट इज अ ग्रीन शू ऑप्शन. ये भेदभाव क्यों यार, जिसने यूज ही नहीं किया उसको 3 दिन दे दिए, 1 दिन में क्या फर्क पड़ रहा है? ठीक है, 1 दिन में क्या ही फर्क पड़ता है. और भेदभाव हर जगह दुनिया में, तो सर्कुलर में तो कोई बड़ी बात नहीं है. ठीक है. So I can say that SEBI has expanded the scope to REITs and INVITs as well, because they have allowed these organizations, these entities as well to apply through EBP platform, right? And there is an anchor investor allocation as well. What do you mean by anchor investor? So usually before your IPO, before your issue, few individuals or institutions can invest in your securities. Those are anchor investors. They are not taking part in the issue, however they have invested prior to the issue, right? And there is a anchor portion size also given, but I don't think that you should study each and everything related to every circular. So my priority, as per my opinion, the first thing you should be aware of this 20 crore limit. Earlier it was 50 crore, now it is 20 crore, right? Then you need to remember the timeline. You need to remember the portal name, electronic book provider platform. You need to remember that the scope has been extended to real estate investment trust and infrastructure investment trust as well, right? And then at last, और हिम्मत बच जाए तो ये वाला भी आप पढ़ सकते हो. एंकर पोर्शन है कि अगर आपकी रेटिंग के हिसाब से दे हैव गिवन पोर्शन फॉर एंकर इन्वेस्टर, right? Next is SBI joins global top 100 in net profit. So that's a milestone for Indian banks. SBI Bank's net profit for financial year 2025 is 77,561 crore plus. So making it highest annual profit to date, right? So it has entered into global top 100 कंपनीज बाय नेट प्रॉफिट. सो इट्स नो मोर लंच चल रहा है बाद में आने वाला बैंक. इट हैज एंटर्ड इनटू ग्लोबल टॉप 100 कंपनीज बाय नेट प्रॉफिट एंड दैट्स ह्यूज. ओके, हाँ यार, इसका मीम कुछ भी हो जाता है, एसबीआई बैंक का मीम आने लग जाता है, राइट. दुनिया में कुछ भी हो जाए बैंक रिलेटेड, एसबीआई बैंक पे मीम जरूर बनता है. ठीक है, 2 मीम बनते हैं, एक तो एसबीआई का लंच चल रहा है वाला और एक एचडीएफसी का कि रिलेशनशिप मैनेजर चेंज हो गया करके कुछ, आई डोंट रिमेंबर एग्जैक्टली. ओके, चलो आगे चलते हैं. SEBI report highlights that digital adoption and credit challenges in MSME sector. SEBI की एक रिपोर्ट ने हाईलाइट किया है रिगार्डिंग द डिजिटल अडॉप्शन दैट digital payment adoption is 90% of the MSMEs now accept digital payments, and that's a great news, right? They are shifting towards digital transactions. However, if I talk about digital lending platform, then only 18% of the MSMEs are currently using the digital lending platforms. और कहना क्या चाहते हो यार? मैं कुछ नहीं कहना चाहता, SEBI कहना चाहता है एक रिपोर्ट में. ठीक है, SEBI is saying that डिजिटल पेमेंट अडॉप्शन तो अच्छा हुआ है, MSMEs have started accepting the digital payments. However, they are not using the digital lending platforms. Only 18% of the MSMEs are using it. Credit gap, तो I think we have already covered the news related to credit gap in my last session, right? I have already told you that MSME faces an estimated credit gap amounting to 30 lakh crore, right? Which is close to 24%. I think we have already discussed this thing in the last session related to credit gap. However, these two things are new. Okay. So they have released data related to women entrepreneurship as well. Like women now own 26% of the proprietary MSMEs, but face steeper barriers than men, with 41% citing the reasons to credit and market competition as a key challenge. So 41% of them are saying that having access to credit and market competition is a key challenge, still a key challenge. Okay, so just the key highlights of SEBI report. TCS enters world's most 50th most valuable brand, with $57.3 billion valuation. So TCS is now part of 50 most valuable brands as of now, with a 57.3 billion valuation. Okay, it has entered into top 50 as of now. Next is UN lowers the India's GDP forecast to 6.3. So now we need to just remember the data because it is related to UN. Plus we need to know the underlying reason as well. So the new data is 6.3%. Earlier the estimate was 6.6%. And what's the reason? Global trade tensions and policy uncertainties. Okay. The previous year GDP stood at 7.1%. The estimate was 6.6% now for this year. However, they have again revised it to 6.3%. Okay. Despite of that, the world is growing at a much lesser rate as compared to India, and India remains at the fastest growing major economies due to robust domestic consumption and sustained public investment. Whenever you see any kind of growth estimate, you will see these two reasons: robust domestic consumption and sustained public investment. Okay, 60-70% of the times you will be seeing these reasons. Okay. Next is TCS partners with Mongolia's Khan Bank to modernize the core banking with AI integration. So TCS has partnered with Khan Bank, which is based out of Mongolia, for AI integration. Okay, so they will be definitely using their platform, TCS Banks, a very famous platform, for modernization of their core banking system. Okay, they will be doing a lot of AI driven enhancements. I don't think more stuff needs to be learned apart from this particular news. Okay, that's fine. Next is Reliance Power, which is not of Mukesh Ambani, which is of Anil Ambani. And Bhutan's DHI has entered into a joint venture of 2000 crore for 500 metric watt solar project. Okay, so recently I think Adani Power has also entered into such a kind of agreement with some Bhutan company only, if I am not wrong. I think in the last session I have covered that thing related to Adani. Okay, and now it is Reliance Power. Next is revamped periodic labor force survey. So this is a labor force survey. This survey is related to labor. Now they have enhanced the market data collection in India. So they will be now posting the monthly labor force data. Okay, like the labor force participation rate, worker population ratio, unemployment ratio, things like that. They will be publishing it monthly. Then extension of quarterly estimates to rural area. Now they have considering the rural area also this time. So the quarterly estimates, earlier they used to make it only for the urban areas. Now they will be making the estimates for both urban as well as rural areas on quarterly basis. Okay, earlier they only used to consider the urban area. Now they will be considering the rural areas as well. Then there is a shift to calendar year as well. Earlier they were following the July to June cycle, which is very strange. Now they will be shifting to January to December cycle. So they will be reporting data as per the January to December cycle, obviously to match the global standards. Everybody is reporting the same way, January to December. Why to shift to the better reporting period rather than reporting in July to June, May, right? Next is India's outward FDI nearly doubles to $6.8 billion in April 2025 as per the RBI data. Now that's a huge surge in outward FDI, right? Breakdown, you don't have to remember each and every number, right? You don't have to do that. I can see that equity instruments, there is a sharp increase, right? Loan commitments, there is a okay increase, and guarantee issued has surged maximum, right? So it is driven by guarantee issued and equity instruments. And major contributors here are Tata Communication, JSW, and Life Insurance Corporation. Okay, not so important. However, this particular headline is important considering the presence of data in it. Next is India's financial year 2025 exports. Agriculture, pharma, electronics, engineering sector dominates. We don't have to remember each and every data. In fiscal year 24-25, India's merchandise export total to $437.42 billion. Now, what was the major driving reason? Collectively, engineering, agriculture, electronics and pharma accounted for over 50%. और इसके अंदर से भी highest share goes to the engineering goods, right? They have contributed alone 26+%. Okay. Then the next is Punjab National Bank divest entire stake in ISARC. So this is a asset reconstruction company. Okay, Punjab National Bank is exiting from the asset reconstruction company to streamline the portfolio. Basically, they want to focus on the core banking operations, their core operations rather than non-core investments. So they are exiting it, right? So I'm just telling you that these banks are also investing in the ARC companies. Okay. Next is US proposes 5% tax on remittances by non-citizens. Let's suppose you are doing a job in the US and you are sending money as remittances to your parents or your relatives. Then now the US can tax you 5% for such a remittance, right? So we all know that there are a lot of strategic changes that are happening in the US economy as of now because of the change in the president, I can say, right? So 5% of the tax is being proposed for remittances here for non-citizens. So this will be definitely an additional tax burden, approximately $1.6 billion annually, right? If this bill is enacted as of now. My last qualification. So I'm a chartered accountant by qualification, Rajesh. Okay, I'm a chartered accountant by qualification. Next is India's strategic advantage amid rising global trade protection. Insights from the S&P Global report. So that's a report by global S&P Global here, right? India's strategic advantage. They are mentioning that even because of the trade war, even before because of the escalating global tensions, India is still doing well, right? And that's what here we can see in the report. You can read this report later on, right? Not so important, but yes, they are focusing that because of the trade war itself and due to a number of other issues as well, geopolitical tensions as well, still there is a good opportunity for India. Next is April 2025 core sector growth slows to 0.5%. So that's quite low. The growth rate is very low, right? Earlier it used to be 4.6%. Back then in 2024 it was 6.9%, right? And the highest contributor among the growth rate is cement industry, and the lowest I think is petroleum refinery products. Okay, so we'll be only having a look at the highest and the lowest, right? Won't suggest you to go into too details because there are a lot of things already. Next is BSE's Asia Index launches 4 new factor based indices. So what is factor based indices? Right, I don't want you to remember this news, each and every fund name. No, that's not required for the examination. However, you should be aware of what is an index fund, what is a ETF, what is a factor based indices. So these are based on factors. Like let's suppose if a particular bunch of stocks are having high level of volatility, right? So they can create high volatility index, just like they have created BSE 500 low volatility. Let's suppose some shares are having quite good momentum, they are of high quality, right? So these are different factors. Okay. Next is SEBI circular highlights EL based rating scale for municipal bonds. Don't go into too much detail. However, SEBI has proposed that for municipal bonds, so I'm getting an amazing question in the comment section. Okay, sir, is teaching paying more than the CA job? It's our or it's your passion? So Rajesh, thank you so much for the question. It's my passion, right, for teaching. I have been part of PwC. Earlier I was working with Royal Bank of Scotland in the treasury domain, right? So teaching always excites me, that's why I'm teaching. Okay, so that totally depends guys कि किसमें आपका ज़्यादा पे. We cannot say that जॉब में ज़्यादा पे है, CA में ज़्यादा पे है या टीचिंग में. It doesn't matter. जहाँ पे आपका पैशन है हमेशा वहाँ ज़्यादा पे होगा, राइट? चलो पढ़ लेते हैं वापस से फटाफट से. ये तो अभी तुम लोग मेरी सैलरी पे भी आ जाओगे थोड़ी देर में, ठीक है? तो सेबी सर्कुलर हाईलाइट्स EL बेस्ड रेटिंग स्केल फॉर म्युनिसिपल बॉन्ड्स. EL बेस्ड मतलब एक्सपेक्टेड लॉस मॉडल. Okay, so CRAs are now allowed to use expected loss model. Earlier what they used to do is probability of default model पे करते थे, ठीक है, कि कहीं default होगा कि नहीं होगा, whether the particular municipal bond will default or not. That's a probability of default model. However, expected loss model is much wider. I can say that expected loss model is having both two things: probability of default plus expected loss post default. इसका मतलब समझना. आज आरबीआई से ज्यादा सेबी का न्यूज है यार. देखो एग्जाम में भी यही हुआ था, पता है आपको, 2024 के अंदर. सो क्या होता है, मिक्स में होता है. देखो कभी आरबीआई का न्यूज ज्यादा होता है, कभी सेबी का ज्यादा होता है. इस वीक में सेबी का थोड़ा ज्यादा आ गया था, राइट, और इंपॉर्टेंट भी है. ओके, और भी बहुत कुछ था पर मैंने ये वाला ही कवर किया है जो इंपॉर्टेंट है एग्जाम के लिए. बता भी दो. अरे छोड़ो यार, अभी ये सब कहाँ, तुम अभी पढ़ाई पे आओ वापस से, राइट? कम टू स्टडीज नाउ वापस से. लेट्स गेट बैक टू द टॉपिक. कुछ नहीं रखा है यार, सैलरी वैलरी में कुछ नहीं रखा है, देखो, ठीक है? चलो, एट द एंड ऑफ द डे सब फाइनेंस सही है. चलो, सो यहाँ पे आपको क्या ध्यान रखना है, देखो, डोंट गो इनटू टू मच डिटेल्स ऑफ दिस पर्टिकुलर थिंग. व्हाई? बिकॉज देयर आर अ लॉट ऑफ टेक्निकल स्टफ हियर. ओके, अगर ये एक्सपेक्टेड क्रेडिट लॉस मॉडल होता आपका बैंक का तो मैं आपको डिटेल में पढ़ाता भी, राइट, जो आरबीआई रिकमेंड भी करता है. हाउएवर ये सेबी रिलेटेड न्यूज है, हम इसको ऊपर से देखना चाहेंगे, बहुत ज्यादा डिटेल में नहीं. they are transitioning to expected loss instead of probability of default. Why? Because it's a wider terminology. It includes both probability of a default plus expected loss post default. हो सकता है डिफॉल्ट होने के बाद भी कुछ रिकवरी का चांस बने. There might be cases that after the default also you are able to recover some proceeds, right? So they are this expected loss model is also computing that as well, right? So it's a wider term. So यहाँ स्टेक होल्डर से कंसल्टेशन गया है, इमीडिएट इफेक्ट से एप्लीकेबल होने वाला है, कौन सा सेक्शन में लग रहा है आपको नहीं याद करना है, किस पे एप्लीकेबल है, सब पे एप्लीकेबल है, आपको ये सब चीजें नहीं याद करनी है. और पर्पस क्या होता है यार, देखो सेबी के हर सर्कुलर का पर्पस यही होता है कि इन्वेस्टर को बचा लो, ट्रांसपेरेंसी लेके आ जाओ, डेवलपमेंट करवा दो मार्केट का. ठीक है, सो मेजरली आप यही सब देखोगे. ठीक है, नेक्स्ट, इंडियन बैंक्स टू प्रायोरिटाइज सिक्योर्ड लेंडिंग इन फाइनेंशियल ईयर 2026 amid slowing credit growth. So Indian banks are now prioritizing giving secured loans instead of unsecured loan, right? So this is as per Fitch Rating, which is a credit rating agency here. India banks are expected to experience a slowdown. Why? Because there are more money making opportunities when you lend to the unsecured sector, because you are able to charge higher amount of interest rates, right? However, this deceleration is attributed because there is a strategic shift by the lender. आजकल हर कोई secured loans देना चाहता है, जैसे कि home loan हो गया, vehicle loan हो गया, right? So they are focusing mainly on the secured loans plus high quality loans. High quality loans. अब high quality loans के लिए क्या करना पड़ता है ना, आपको secured loans देने पड़ते हैं, और secured loans में usually interest rate कम होते हैं, unsecured में ज्यादा होते हैं. तो ये वही रिपोर्ट आई है. ओके, वही चीजें लिखी हुई है यहाँ पे फैक्टर्स में. ओके, व्हाट एल्स, नॉन बैंक ओके, नॉन बैंक lenders emerge as leading funders to MSME sector. So we can see here that non-banking financial companies, NBFCs, have overtaken the banks in lending to the MSMEs. So NBFCs ने ज्यादा दबा के लोन दिया इस बार MSME को as compared to others, and their focus area is on collateral backed loans under 10 lakh rupees, right? वहां पे वॉल्यूम बहुत हाई होता है, so they are focusing on the collateral backed loan under 10 lakh rupees, especially through the micro loan against property. And NBFC has overtaken the banks when it comes to lending to the MSMEs. Okay, and we can here see the loan book size of the MSMEs as well, okay, of NBFCs. So it's the highest in financial year 2026. सर ये स्टार यहाँ पे क्यों लगा हुआ है? Because this is projected. Okay, this is projected. सर थोड़ा हिंदी भी यूज कर लिया करो यार. एक बात बताता हूँ तुमको, देखो क्या होता है, मैं हिंदी यूज करता हूँ तो मेरे को कमेंट आता है सर आप इंग्लिश यूज नहीं कर रहे हो. मैं इंग्लिश यूज करना चालू करता हूँ तो फिर कमेंट आता है सर आप हिंदी यूज नहीं कर रहे हो. इंग्लिश यूज करता हूँ तो दोनों का कमेंट आता है. तो अब मैं करूँ क्या, मेरे को यही समझ में नहीं आ रहा, राइट? सो आई हैव डिसाइडेड कि मैं मेजॉरिटी ऑफ द टाइम इंग्लिश में बोलूं और बीच बीच में हिंदी में भी बोलूं, राइट? दोनों चीज़ों का अप्रोच लेके चलूं. अब अगर मैं ऐसा करने लग गया कि मैं थोड़ा सा इंग्लिश में बोलूं फिर वापस उस लाइन को हिंदी में बोलूं तो 1 घंटे का 2 घंटे में हो जाएगा लेक्चर, राइट? दैट वोंट बी यूजफुल, पर दैट्स अ चैलेंज फॉर मी एज वेल. ठीक है, जो भी मैं बोलता हूँ मेरे को लगता है यार कोई ना कोई हर्ट हो रहा होता है, तो इंग्लिश वाला है हिंदी वाला, राइट? तो देखो की स्टैटिस्टिक्स क्या है यहाँ पे. एमएसएमई लेंडिंग बाय एनबीएफसीज आर हैव अ ग्रोथ ऑफ 32% एनुअली वर्सेस 10% फॉर प्राइवेट बैंक्स, एंड पब्लिक सेक्टर बैंक का तो यार हालत खराब है यहाँ पे, सिर्फ 2% है. ओके, सिर्फ 2% है. नाउ एनबीएफसीज होल्ड 45% ऑफ द मार्केट शेयर्स ऑफ माइक्रो एलएपी सेगमेंट. ओके, सही है. अच्छा, नेक्स्ट न्यूज जो मैं आपको बता रहा था, आरबीआई फाइनेंशियल ईयर 2025 डिविडेंड पे आउट टू द गवर्नमेंट में जंप बाय 50%, 50% से तो इस बार शायद जो सरप्लस जाने वाला है दैट इज एक्सपेक्टेड कि वो एनीवेयर अराउंड 2.6 to 3 लाख करोड़ का हो, राइट? अरे 2,60,000 3 लाख रुपए की बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ, 3 लाख करोड़ बोल रहा हूँ, राइट? सो दैट्स अ ह्यूज अमाउंट. आई थिंक लास्ट ईयर कम था और इस बार 50% उसका इंक्रीज होने वाला है, राइट? And why such a big payout? RBI earning from foreign exchange reserve has increased due to elevated US Treasury yields. So US Treasury yields के बढ़ जाने की वजह से RBI को यहाँ पे फॉरेक्स रिजर्व के अंदर, अब देखो यार RBI होल्ड करता होगा ना US ट्रेजरी यील्ड, राइट, एज फॉरेन एक्सचेंज रिजर्व्स. सो डेफिनेटली यहाँ उनको काफी फायदा हुआ है. और इतना बड़ा पे आउट क्यों? क्योंकि तो हमने देखा था ना आज इकोनॉमिक कैपिटल फ्रेमवर्क की बात करी थी एक न्यूज में कि मीटिंग हुई है, शायद 615th मीटिंग हुई थी, राइट. अभी उसमें मैंने आपको बताया था इकोनॉमिक कैपिटल फ्रेमवर्क के बारे में, दैट वी विल बी टेकिंग डिसीजन इन दिस ECF वेदर टू पे, हाउ मच टू पे, हाउ मच टू रिटेन, राइट. सो ये इसी से ड्रिवन है, वहीं पे ये डिसीजन हुआ था, राइट, एंड इट्स गुड फॉर द गवर्नमेंट एज वेल. ओके गाइस, तो आज के लिए इतना ही. थैंक यू सो मच फॉर वॉचिंग द सेशन एंड पार्टिसिपेटिंग इन दी सेशन. ओके, वीडियो पसंद आ गया हो तो यार वीडियो को लाइक कर देना, कोई बढ़िया सा कमेंट कर देना, ठीक है. मिलते हैं किसी और सेशन में, कल के सेशन में MCQs के साथ में. मेरा गुड नेम, माय नेम इज प्रतीक तलदार. ओके राजेश, माय नेम इज प्रतीक. ओके, so thank you so much guys, see you soon in tomorrow's class. Bye bye, take care, have a great evening. Telegram, just give me a second yaar, I'm dropping that. ओके, सो ये टेलीग्राम है ना. किसी को कोई भी डाउट हो तो डेफिनेटली यू गाइस कैन आस्क मी ऑन टेलीग्राम और ऑन द कमेंट सेक्शन एज वेल. ओके, क्लास का टाइम यार 8 PM हमेशा, ठीक है. थर्सडे एंड फ्राइडे 8 PM, और प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चन सीरीज करनी हो तो वेंसडे 8 PM, ठीक है. सो वेंसडे, थर्सडे, फ्राइडे 8 PM. थैंक यू सो मच चेतन, थैंक्स फॉर हाईलाइटिंग. ह्यूमर तो यार आना चाहिए क्लास में, मुकुंद. ह्यूमर नहीं आएगा तो फिर मजा कैसे आएगा? नहीं. ओके गाइस, बाय बाय, टेक केयर.